one of Robb Report's kind of key franchises, and it's up there on the wall, is the Best of the Best, which is our annual awards for the products and experiences and people that we believe are without parallel within the wide range of the luxury industry. And I was reminded of that when you were talking, Filipp, because you were talking about the best of the best in terms of performers and artists using your equipment, and then that trickling down into people who demand the best, who expect the best, who want the best. Just as an illustration of the level we're talking about, give us some names of the artists that you work with, because they're quite small and probably people won't have heard of them, but let's see whether you have.
I mean, we're lucky enough to work with some amazing artists. U2, Beyoncé, Alicia Keys, Olivia Rodrigo. She just started her tour. She has these really crazy purple ones that have, I think, Samantha from Sex and the City drinking a Manhattan as the custom artwork. That was sort of a fun thing where she was like texting us these random blurry photos. We're like, how do we make this work? But yeah, we get to work with a lot of really great artists, and a lot of the times, I mean, they don't get enough credit for how into their craft they are, because they're celebrity and we kind of disassociate them from the profession. But a lot of them are very discerning performers, very discerning music lovers and musicians. And so a lot of times they make us better by demanding things of us that we haven't yet done. And that trickles, like you said, trickles into the rest of the product line and then becomes available for everyone. Like Beyoncé, sorry to keep name dropping, but she was actually, I mean, one of her requests at a certain point ended up turning into a very successful product of ours. She needed something that was a very low profile cable. She wanted something that was almost invisible. And all the cables that we were testing had a really high impedance, which, not to get into too much detail, but it was changing the sound of the earphones. So we had to make her earphones with a patented technology of ours that corrected for that. And so through COVID and everything, by the time we made that product, we'd actually developed something new, and it's been wildly successful, and only started because someone who really needed something to enhance their performance asked us of it, and it's really great. I mean, we like to tell people you can be listening to a John Mayer song with our A18T custom in-ear monitors like these, which have 18 micro speakers per side, and he uses them on stage. And then his mixing engineer used them to mix the record, and then his mastering engineer may have also used them to master the record. So, like I said, it's an inherently high-end product because it is so demanding, and as a consequence, folks who are high-end audio enthusiasts have sort of, over the last 10 years, kind of picked up on the possibilities within high-end audio in earphones. And so our business has grown into basically half and half. Half of the folks using them in a professional setting for performance monitoring, i.e. they're called in-ear monitors. And then the other half are folks who are using them in a personal sense. So they're either audiophiles or just high-end product enthusiasts. We see a lot of it in East Asia, folks who are doing a lot of commuting but want the absolute best. And so we are one of those brands who make the absolute best sounding earphones.
Now, I want to be able to give you a sample of the quality that we're talking about. So we've got two options. We can either turn this on and we can be incredibly quiet and we can see if we can listen to any of that, but I don't think that's really going to work. Or we can ask Daisy if she'd just give us a strum or two. She's not going to perform a song. This isn't where this is going. But
well, don't get too excited, because I make these by hand, right? Which basically means that most of the time my hands are covered in glue. So when I came here, I was like, I need to look really good. So I went and got my nails done. Terrible idea. I did file them down, though. I got bored of them after one day. So now I can play a little bit. But it's not going to do it justice, so just use some imagination, and I'll play a few little bits.
Lovely, thank you.
Do you mind holding the microphone
to
the sound hole? I think you'll know how to mic it up, right?
Oh, yeah.
Lovely.
This is
That's yours, yeah. This one's.
I think
Philip's.
I just have to tell you about this wood because I made this guitar especially for the Robb Report event in the House of Robb.
Would you like me to hold it?
Yeah, there you go. It's a little model, my glamorous assistant here. The wood on the back and sides I just wanted to actually really talk about. So this is called Tasmanian tiger myrtle, and as a maker, you come across materials sometimes that are just so inspiring. And I used to, when I was a kid, read this poem called The Tiger by William Blake. And this instrument was kind of inspired by that poem because it's just mind-blowing that nature can produce something like this, and it makes my job very easy. So I just wanted to share that with you because I'd never seen anything like this, and it's absolutely stunning. It's very rare, and you'd be hard-pushed to find another guitar made out of it. That being said, the acoustics are working really well. It's a brand new guitar. It was strung up about 3 days ago. And I'm really excited to hear how it opens up. But yeah, it's kind of, as you were saying about storytelling, it's such a big part of what we do as kind of luxury makers. And, oh, that would be...
Yeah, try not to smash the guitar.
bad.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that because I want you to be able to explain how you make the kit that you do because it is incredible. So we've actually sold 3 of Daisy's guitars over the last 18 months, I guess, through the Ultimate Gift Guide.
Maybe not, maybe like a year.
Maybe a year, I think
sure.
you're probably right, yeah. One was, well, why am I telling the story? You tell the story. Tell us about the
ones we sold together. So I wanted to put something, when the Robb Report got in touch with me, they said, it's one of your journalists, and he just said, we need something drop dead. And I was like, I have just the thing. So at the time, I'd acquired some walnut wood that was actually a tree that was planted in a very historic area of London called Kew Gardens. And Queen Victoria actually planted the tree. So that was really special because obviously it's a finite material. That was snapped up very quickly because it's an amazing heritage to have a guitar made out of a tree that Queen Victoria planted. Like, what a pleasure it was to work with that wood. I really, really enjoyed that, and we made a beautiful piece. Actually, that commission was a real joy because the client who ordered it just said to me, you are the expert, why don't you design it, do all the materials together, you put them together, you design it, and they're really happy with the end product. The other one was, again, from an incredibly famous tree. The wood on its own sells for $10,000 now. So we're talking one of the rarest pieces of wood in the world, and it comes from a tree that was felled in 1960s Belize in a rainforest. And the tree was a big tree. It was a big mahogany tree. So when the loggers felled the tree back in the 60s, they didn't have the technology yet to be able to move the tree out of the forest. So what they did was just left it there because they couldn't do anything with it. In the 90s, or the 80s perhaps, late 80s, 90s, another guy came into the forest, saw this big tree lying there, and he was a logger as well, so he kind of, by this point, had a steam-powered sawmill. So he just chopped it right up in the forest. And this tree had a genetic mutation which they'd never seen before or since. We haven't seen one since. And it created this sort of tortoiseshell effect in the wood. And guitar makers started eyeing this wood up. It was originally sold into furniture, but guitar makers started eyeing this wood up in kind of the 90s, early 2000s, because it had a great tone to it as well. Like, someone tried it in an instrument. It was amazing. And since then, Sting has a guitar made from this wood as well. So I actually got hold of this wood because the supplier really believed in my company, and he says, I want you to build with it. So he gave me some. And I knew that was the one I had to build with for the Robb Report as well. So that was number 2. And also, George Lucas had his office paneled in this tree, which is
That's quite a baller move, isn't it?
Bit of a flex, yeah. So that was that. And then the other one I sold was made of 5,000-year-old wood, which is just unbelievable. And a really quick rundown of how that's possible, because you're probably thinking, how? That's what I was thinking when I heard about this wood. But Again, there's a finite amount. I like working with materials that are finite because it makes it exclusive. You can't get another one. But this wood basically, at the area that I'm from, I was born in a place called East Anglia in England. I'm from London, if you can't tell from my accent. So there's a place in the UK called East Anglia. It's very flat. There are no hills. I tell you, the first time I saw a hill, I was like, what's going on? Because I was born in the wetlands, in the fenlands. And about 5,000 years ago, the sea level started to rise. And of course, in storms and everything, oak trees, normal trees, they just fall down. They always have. When the sea levels rose, the trees who had recently fallen down were submerged in a bog, like a peat bog or a swamp. And those are oxygen-free environments. And subsequently, the tannins in the wood reacted with the sort of lack of oxidization process and turned the timber jet black. And in the 21st century or the 20th century, farm equipment came along and dug up these trees, which had essentially been part fossilized. And it turned out it was, again, just had this really great tone to it. And so people like me have started to kind of hunt around, and my partner actually lives in East Anglia as well. He owns his family are farmers, so I'm kind of just seen on weekends sort of like walking around their fields trying to kick up this timber. But so yeah, it's been great. Anyway, I hope that wasn't too nerdy.
There's lots I want to continue to ask you about the guitars and how why they're made and all the rest of it. But Filipp, let me come to you next in terms of how this particular collaboration came apart, because 64 Audio does the in-ear monitors, but what we're actually offering is this combination, which looks very much like a hip flask, but I promise you it isn't. This is a DAC, which is a digital audio piece of kit, which is essentially for the oldies in the audience, like the Walkman, and then you've got the headphones here. So this is done by a separate company. The IFI Audio, because I can never remember their name. And this collaboration came about because we're bringing two separate brands together to produce something that doesn't exist in the marketplace, which is the ultimate in audio technology. So can you tell us a little bit about how this kind of process happened?
Sure, yeah. So one thing that I like to kind of explain to folks who aren't maybe initiated in the sort of high-end audio space is we are still very much focused on sonic quality, audio resolution. We feel like audio was never really given its heyday because technology moved so quickly, and there's still companies that are making tube amplifiers, which were developed in the 40s, and there's still companies that are extracting more and more from that technology. There's still so much that can be done with things that seem almost sort of antiquated. For example, you see that this has a cord attached to it. These aren't wireless. And that is something you'll find in high-end audio is we're still not doing wireless. We're doing cords, we're doing wires. We're trying to get the most transparent transmission of audio signal from the source to the ears. And so this particular collaboration involves the in-ears, of course. We made this cable exclusively for the partnership, which is a silver-plated copper in this beautiful jacketing. And then the DAC...
Just sorry to interrupt you there, but why
Yes.
silver-plated copper? Why is that significant?
Essentially, we're trying to get what's called the impedance, or the amount of electrical resistance, down as low as possible. Because these earphones are so sensitive, it will have negative effects, or it'll have effects that you may or may not want. And so we're trying to get the electrical resistance as low as possible. So we use components like copper, pure copper, or silver-plated copper. We have a cord in the vault room that is pure silver core, and then like 24 strands of pure silver wire, and then shielded in pure silver wire as well. So it goes pretty far out there once you start going down the rabbit hole of wires in audio. I don't know if anyone in the audience is sort of into that stuff, but you know that it gets pretty deep. And so to get the most out of them, we see folks using products like the iFi Diablo 2, which is a digital to analog converter as well as a headphone amplifier. So you may not know this, but everything that you plug your headphones into is actually a headphone amplifier, whether it's into your laptop or into your phone. it's actually amplifying and driving the signal into the earphones. And so using products like this elevates your experience. Not only from sort of esoteric, you can't really tell if you're hearing a difference or not, but they really, even from the standpoint of digital signal sample rate conversion, your dongle on your phone or your AirPods, these things can only convert certain types of signals, and nowadays more than ever, even the streaming services are offering high resolution audio files that require equipment like the Diablo 2 to be able to actually convert into analog signal. So we worked with them. We sent samples back and forth, and they were releasing the Diablo 2 sort of around the same time that we were talking about the partnership. And they sort of, I'm going to say reformulated because I don't know the electronics of how it's done differently, but the 10 units that were made for the Robb Report gift guide or vault were sort of specially tuned to work optimally with the A18T custom in-ear monitors of ours, which you might not see it. You could come to the room and check it out a little bit later. But each one of these earphones has 18 micro speakers, or drivers, we call them, per side. So it requires a bit more sort of dedicated amplification than you might get from a phone or something.
So just to put that into context, how many would a set of iPhone headphones have? So
sorry, I didn't understand the question.
So these have got 18. How many would iPods have?
Oh, typically
AirPods.
they have one. They'll have one driver that plays the broadband signal, and not that there's anything wrong with using single driver systems for earphones. We have products that use 2 drivers, 4 drivers. It really has to do with the amount of detail that you end up hearing. And some of the stuff that our engineers do are so out there that it ends up being something like this. For example, the A18T was a product of experimentation where they were actually using mid-range drivers to produce low frequencies because of the level of quick detail that you were getting from the bass. So it wasn't being bogged down by a lot of mass. So that's where we landed on 18 micro speakers per side. But yeah, it can range, not to dog any other products that have less drivers than that. This is just kind of what this model ended up being. But yeah, you have to hear it to really believe it.
Yeah, I love that. I love the level of detail that these kind of products require to be the best of the best. You can't do, or either of you do, without that level of extreme nerdery, which is kind of deeply fundamental. Well, I have a personal belief that our audience, our readers, at the very highest end of kind of luxury consumers, are massive nerds. And I say that with love, and I call myself one at the same time, because it all comes down to the detail. Very, very few people go into a supercar dealership and they go, I'll have that one. They choose and make their choices based on emotion and kind of passion, but also all the data, all the knowledge, the research that they've done, they've driven, they've tried, they've done all this kind of stuff. And it's the same with your kind of product. So Daisy, talk us through the kind of the different levels of customization that you do, because obviously when you're making a bespoke guitar for a client, it's not like you say, well, we'll just change the wood. Like everything, presumably, is variable.
Yeah, so I mean, right down to the thickness of the neck, So if a client wants, I can send them something called, it's like a type of gauge, and if they've got an existing guitar, which then they love the neck on, they can send me that profile gauge it's called. They can send me that profile of the neck, I can copy it. There are so many things you can do. This one, for example, was a standard neck that I put on, but the ones I have in the vault were for clients, and they said, I've got small hands, or I need this, and we'll kind of talk it out. It's very a very collaborative process. But also, as you say, the wood is fully customizable. I can steer in the right direction if no one's sure, but ultimately people say to me like, oh, I like playing blues, or I like playing folk, or I like strumming, and we can adjust the timbres and the aesthetics at the same time. It's like one of those things where you drag it to kind of get your ideal of everything, and it's a bit of a trade-off and whatever, but ultimately it's really important that we come up with something that's going to work aesthetically and ergonomically and also tonally. So there's so many little factors that you can tweak, even with the inlay that I've got around the sound hole here, which is called the rosette inlay. That's actually, I have a collection of 18th century hand marbled end papers from an atlas collection that was exhibited in Mayfair in London back in like the 60s. And it was from a really renowned antique dealer, and he left them to me because he sort of heard the story of my guitars, and we got chatting, and he was like, I've just got, I've got to put it somewhere to use because it's just sitting there now. So I now kind of send pictures of the paper to my clients, and they can pick their favorite, and that's nice because I studied literature. That's my background, so it's a nice nod to that. But yeah, it's fully kind of customizable product, much like yours, but I guess the bare bones of artisanal quality will always remain the same. It's really important. So yeah, everything around it can move, but not the product itself in its integrity.
I want to thank Daisy and Filipp for being here with us over the House of Robb the last 3 days and talking about that. They're fantastic products. But do please visit robreport.com and have a look at the Vault. We will be doing a range of options and jewelry and travel experiences and musical instrumentation and all sorts of other things. So please do check it out. But for now, Filipp and Daisy, thank you very much indeed for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.